it's a good first step. And they didn't say no, they didn't say yes. They guided us on what we needed to do. So we're hopeful that we get to the next step.
Okay, good news. Any other questions, discussions? All in favor of accepting the director's report? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any old and new business work?
The budget, new business budget approval, we do that right now? Or is that later on the agenda?
For annual budget, we do in
Yeah.
August. But
Oh, we're doing it in the August.
Yeah.
We're already tired. Good. Mark's got his in. He's ready to go. Okay. Move on to Palm Harbor Library. Do we have a motion to accept the financials as shown?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Director's report. We have a motion to approve the director's report.
I'll make a motion again. I'll second.
Okay, Matthew?
I'll just grab one of the highlights there that we got, our IT team applied for and got the E-rate funding for dedicated fiber internet. It's up and running and seems to be working pretty well so far. We're saving money, better connection, good thing. So that's Blake. Blake primarily drove that process and he did a great job with it. The other thing I wanted to emphasize or bring up for approval is the MSTU. We've submitted it to the county, but we still need to get approval for what will be over the $20,000 that the county awards if it gets awarded. And so that's what I wanted to bring up here. And basically, it's to replace a shelving range. The total amount would be in the neighborhood of $34,000-$35,000, which means if we get MSTU, we'd be spending, I said up to $20,000, but hopefully closer to that $16,000, it's for a full range. Shelving isn't expensive, unfortunately, especially in the library world. But those shelves might even be original to the building, but they're definitely at least a couple of decades old and really need to be replaced. So that's what I wanted to bring up for approval, to see if we could go ahead and get approved to spend. Our advisory council approved it, but it's up to $20,000 in addition to the MSTU, and that would come from our operating and capital, depending on what the total cost ends up being. And we've got the money, so I'd like to spend it.
Okay, we'll bring that up after we finish.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We know this.
A little premature there, so
Okay, no,
remember all that.
Okay, we'll remember. Okay.
And the only other thing is Summerween. We're still have lots of tickets left, so if any of you have a place to put flyers, I did bring a stack of flyers tonight. Please see me after, and I'll bring some to Lois. Thank you. And that's it for me. It's this Friday night, 6 p.m.
Okay. Do we have any questions regarding accepting the director's report? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and then you needed to make a motion. We need a motion on.
If somebody could make a motion about the MSDU project and the Palm Harbor Library spending up to $20,000 on that toward that project.
I'll make a motion.
No, can we make a, can I make a motion on that also? Or
We have a motion. You
no, I
can
know,
second.
but the spending side of it, yeah.
You can't.
We can.
You can't vote on it.
I can't vote on it, so, okay, I'm just gonna shut up. I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
No,
Yeah.
You can
It's a library project, why can't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's your library.
yes.
Yeah, I can't vote on it.
Okay, no, I got you, that's what
I'm
threw me
sorry.
off.
I don't know the rules either.
I was just looping you with me.
Okay.
Any questions?
Just a clarification, just to reiterate the motion.
Okay, the motion is to approve up to $20,000.
That the library would spend toward the project, and that would be in addition to potential MSDU being approved. Yeah.
Able to go through government bids.
It's a state contractor.
State contractor.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Up to not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Not to
Not to
exceed,
exceed
yes.
20,000.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not to succeed.
You already
It-
have it.
it would be a combination of, it would be library funds, so a combination of capital and operating. It would be a somewhat over.
We're Totally funded though.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other new enrollment?
Appreciate it.
Palm Harbor Parks and Rec, we need a motion to accept the financials for June.
You forgot me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got your glasses placed
I'll make a motion to accept the East Lake Library financials.
Sorry.
I'll second that. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry, Lois. Now we're going to have a motion to accept the East Lake Library's director's report.
I'll make that motion as well. I'll second it.
And discussion, go ahead, Deborah.
I'm sure you've read everything. The only update is, this past Monday, we had the CNCN Candidates Forum. We were overflowing. We needed a bigger building, but we had about 95 people in the room. We had the primary candidates for the congressional district, as well as several number of the school board candidates, and for the most part, they were all well. The audience and the was well behaved. Just one outburst, but it was handled quickly.
Very
But
cool.
we're glad to see such a good turnout.
No, I mean, the other-
All in favor?
not the outburst.
Opposed? Any new or old business?
Something just came up, about a month ago, we had some issues with the air conditioning, and I had reached out to the county and, to do an assessment. They came and discovered that the units probably have about another year on them. They were installed in 2011. But one of the biggest one, the one that handles the whole original building, has a leak, a refrigerant leak, and refrigerant levels are low. But that is under our jurisdiction in terms of paying for the repair. So Dunedin Refrigeration is coming out August 1st. It will take 4 to 6 hours. And in light of the fact that we're going to be closed to the public for almost a whole week with the lighting, I scheduled it for Thursday, August 1st. Since we don't open until noon, I am asking permission to open at 3 p.m. instead, because they said it will take 4 to 6 hours, and I don't want to open up the building prematurely and it still be, at a very high temperature inside the building. So.
We get a motion that Lois opens the library at 3 p.m. on August the 1st.
Motion is stated.
Second?
Discussion?
Can you not have them come out during the same time as the
No,
lighting?
because if they shut the air conditioning off for 4 to 6 hours, then I think Fuller Electric will probably leave the building. It's too hot.
They're gonna shut off the electric anyway.
Yeah, but,
Yeah. Yeah, so,
yeah, but they'll just cut the power to the lighting, not to the air conditioning.
yeah, it's just to the lighting that they're gonna have to cut the power. That's why the staff can remain in the building during that week. Okay, yeah, I was trying to find the best solution here, and the Thursday seemed to be the best. So if we just open late, I didn't want to have to be closed for the whole day. So we'd be open from 3 to 8. So hopefully there were no glitches. And the repair is going to cost in the neighborhood of $2,200. So we obviously have the funds for that in our operational budget.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anything?
That's it.
Now we're at Parker Parks and Rec, and can we get a motion to accept the?
So
financials?
moved.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Palmer Park and Rec, I was looking at the numbers, and there's no budget for interest income or MST funds. Is that intentional, or is that what's going on?
We have never really received interest income. I was going to address that when I added comments, so I'll say it now. I moved, if you remember, about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, money from operating into capital. And by doing that, if I need it, I can transfer it back. We're earning a couple $1,000s a month. So I'm earning an MSTU project. So what I'm earning by doing that, leaving it over as long as I can before I have to bring it back, if I have to bring it back. So no, the answer is no, we've not ever budgeted for it. The MSTU, that's where the accountant puts that in there for the project. It's a line. We really don't have a budget for MSTU money because we never know what fiscal year is going to fall. And so we don't budget 20,000 in there and then we don't have it. But that's where the accountant added that line to show that income when it comes in.
Is that, I didn't look at the other entities on that one.
I do it as a budget line.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we care? I mean, I don't know if that's.
I mean, obviously, if we don't get it as revenue, you're not gonna see it as an expense.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, so this is not really thinking, is it gonna mess up the budget in the end, positively or negatively?
I mean, the expenses are going to come out for it, you know, regardless of what line you put
Because
it
you're
in.
gonna spend it that year by design, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't budget for it unless you know you're gonna get it.
Yeah. The other question I had, is on the Palm Harbor Parks and Rec financials, there was an over budget, you have over budget. But I think that's based on year-to-date spending versus total budget. Whereas I think the library, Palm Harbor Library has it as budget year-to-date spent, year-to-date budget, which is more useful. And what I'm trying to say is if I'm looking at it, you're looking at over budget, it's gonna be way off because you've only paid so many months of the salary. So it's not a very good way of
So what do
looking
you,
at it.
because the annual column's out to the right, so what do you?
Right,
confused
the
what
annual
you're-
budget's there, the year-to-date spending's there, and then it's over or under budget. You're comparing partial, if I'm looking at it,
The over-under should be for the 9 months or whatever budget year we're in. And then the annual column tells you, because before we added that, because everybody was asking, well, how do we
Right.
know what the whole year is gonna
right,
look like?
right, okay, so that is, the over budget is actually based on year-to-date spending?
Let me look at it so I can see what you're
It
saying.
is.
Yeah, because if you look, the report you're looking at, it says October 2023 through June 2024.
Right, so the first budget column is actual versus budget up to
date.
June.
Right.
And then the right hand is the entire year.
Okay.
So technically, it's showing over $32,000 over budget for revenue, but really and truthfully, with the MSTU now up at the top, it's really, I'm under 5,000, if you looked at that.
And that's
It's,
kind of where
it was
going.
never in our, it was never a budget line when we started MSTU, this just came up probably for the auditors. They wanna see where that revenue comes from. Yeah, because I always take it out of replacement and renewal when we use it, because that's what the capital projects are. So we would put the expense against the and the revenue would go back in there when the county reimbursed it, but I guess they didn't like that.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Palm Harbor Director's Report. Do you have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second?
Any discussion? Erica, you can give us an update?
The only thing I wanted to let you guys know is, I know we lived through about a year ago, the whole soccer drama. So we've been working really hard over the last 13 months to not repeat the past. And staff just spent the last week and a half on and off in between rain, adding 110 yards of material, same company that Mark recommended that he's using. So it's a compost material, all organic, so it's healthy for everything. To help the growth on all the fields. We also are putting seed down tomorrow to try and minimize the amount of sod we're putting down. We feel confident it's going to be significantly less than last year based on the growth we're seeing already. And baseball field renovation, Little League is actually encumbering over $200,000 worth of project improvements at Sunderman. They've been budgeting for this. They're putting up sunshades. They put up locker, big shed systems for them. They're redoing the concession stand so it's pretty exciting for us because if they move tomorrow, we get to keep it all. And we didn't pay for it, so that was pretty exciting. They're gonna start their projects and hopefully finish them by the time fall ball starts. They're gonna start it, I think in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And we upgraded our automated painting unit that we referred to as APU, the robot that paints our fields. We got an upgrade. We are going to rename it, and no, it's not Carl, Phil.
Should be Carl.
It cost us another $250 a quarter to do that, and it's well worth it. All of the software's been upgraded in the last 4 years, and it's been a tremendous asset to have it. because we can paint fields in the summer when it's thundering and lightning in a vehicle and watch the robot painting out in the rain. So it was a great addition to the family. And I think that's it. You know, we've got 3 more weeks, I think, of summer camp. Is that right, Cindy?
Yes.
We're counting down the minutes. Once those 3 weeks are done, we'll take and move, leave programming moved around so that we can do some repairs and maintenance to the building, thanks to the 11 weeks of children running around. So, chair rail's been knocked down, paint's been peeled, but, you know, it's what we do. So, that is all.
Did you ever get your security cameras fixed?
Actually, funny you should ask. We shipped it back at the beginning, the one for the
Yeah,
Peter.
yeah.
Beginning of June. We just had to argue with them on Friday because they said we don't have it. Tracking number showed someone named Steve received it in Georgia, so we're waiting for them to ship out the new one.
Gotcha.
Because it was a warranty issue, because the camera was only, I think, what, 3 weeks old, Steve?
If that, yeah,
At
yeah.
most.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I didn't share this with even anyone else. I think Stephen and Cindy may be the only two that know. Somebody went down there on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday and took tin snips and cut the brackets off of the big 6x6 that we had the camera mounted to. They didn't succeed in taking the 6x6 down, so we reattached it with bolts and 18-inch this and that, and hopefully the camera will arrive in a week, so next time we'll catch the little sucker.
Person.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not a little one.
Yeah, well,
Someone with a big pair of tin snips, so.
all in favor of accepting Palm Harbor Parks and Recs Director's report?
Aye.
Opposed? Any new or old business there?
Thank you.
So we got to next. Got your report. Sent it out.
It's pretty basic, just trying to get everything buttoned up so that we can have a nice, clean transition for the new HR person. There's some things that still need to be tightened up, so I'm working on that, and been working on the 990, and I believe we've got that ready to approve, and that's it.
All right, can we have a motion to accept her report?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And we move on to the liaison report. Huh?
Late in the day, report is a short summary of the same project we've been working on. I think that I'll be able to show at least a model of what the policies and procedure situation is going to look like by the next meeting. Hopefully to get done by September meeting if everybody likes the way things look in August. And I have some personal opinion things to say about the HR situation, and we'll just let y'all read those, and if you want to talk to me about it, call me. And other than that, I'm pretty fired up and excited about us getting a new HR person, and a new helper for Phcsa, and I think it's going to be good times for all.
Thank you.
I'd be glad to answer any questions about that or anything else that
Any
anybody
questions
wants to
from
talk
our-
about.
No? Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, agency business, we have old business at HR full-time position. Can we get an update on what's going on?
Rock, paper, scissors. Who wants some?
Who wants to be the
I vote
spokesperson?
Lois because she put it in her report.
You got
See?
it.
No, I put the other position. in the
Yeah.
report.
Oh, that was it? Oh, I thought I read that
Oh,
one.
in my written.
In your written report.
It's a short report. Basically, we got candidates, and there was a couple we were interested in, but they ended up withdrawing. But we still have a lot more, really, I don't know. We don't know how strong they are yet, but they seem definitely meet a lot of the requirements. So we've got interviews, at least one interview set up for next week, and hoping to have a few more set up in the next few weeks. The 4 of us have got together, reviewed all their applications, and working well together. And we all have differences of opinion, but basically on the same page in terms of the basic requirements, and have all made lots of time for one another to be able to make sure that all the candidates we want to see across the board are going to get seen. But we're using that description that was approved to evaluate the candidates, and hopefully by this time next month we'll be closer, if not having selected somebody. That's our goal anyway, yeah.
Trends or findings so far from what's come in?
None of them are very qualified, okay? A lot of experience, many of them, you know, not a lot of nonprofit or governmental
Yeah.
experience. Some
That's
of them.
the big one.
That's, I think, the hardest one, but, you know, a lot of the HR experience, I mean, we're not getting people coming in from, you know, other fields, just, you know, throwing a resume there. So I think that's a good thing. Some of them, which I discovered, I didn't realize that this happens in the real world, is that many of them, it looked like they hopped from job to job, but they were contractual.
Yeah.
So, which I thought was an unusual
More contract
situation.
help, not even contractual, like they had a contract of
Oh, yeah.
6 months.
Of
and
a
then,
certain
you know,
amount, a
yeah.
So
certain
gig
time.
economy stuff rather than.
Right.
Because
right.
at first, my initial response is, God, they're jumping.
God, they're jumping all over the place,
And
right,
that's a
but,
flag right there.
right, yeah.
Many of them do have either that bachelor's or master's in either HR or business
Mhm.
administration.
And a lot of them are SHRM certified.
Sure, yeah.
Which
So-
I was pleased to see as well. So, I think we have a good pool to pull from. It's a very strong job description, okay? We ask a lot of people, so maybe that's why some of them withdrew, we'll see. But, we do have some interviews set up next week and then beginning of the following
Do you
week.
think a tweak to the language would fine tune what you're looking for and bring you more of what you are looking for? Or you
We've
had that
gotten
point
quite
yet?
a few, so I think,
We've got
you know,
10, I sent
Yeah.
out 10 today asking
Yeah.
them to respond to
Yeah.
candidates. So we're
And
getting,
all are
we're getting
qualified,
resumes.
so I don't think we have to tweak
Right.
that, I think what we have to do is make sure they understand what the job
Right.
entails. And because it is a unique situation, and I thank Bill for providing
Yeah.
a lot of input for the types of interview questions.
Yeah, we're using
that
your
we-
questions.
that we-
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it's very helpful.
so I think we're certainly in a good place right now.
And we're doing in 2 stages. We do a Zoom like pre-interview, and then we'll do a longer
In-person.
on-site in-person interview. Just because we're maybe a little bit precious going just with our few favorites at the beginning, and sure enough, the few favorites withdrew because they probably got better jobs or somewhere else, and so.
Don't fall in love with the first car you see.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're second pass. We're casting a wider net. you know?
Well, and the other thing
Yeah.
I think the 4 of us agreed on was we're not going to knee-jerk react to anyone. We're trying to
No.
really be methodical and
Right.
really take our time and make sure that we do our due diligence to hire the best candidate we think possible. And if that takes us another, sorry, Shelby, month, that takes us another month. But I will say, you know, knock on wood, you know, we've had the on-call HR for a month and we've not had any fires that we've needed to call that Shelby hasn't been able to extinguish or we haven't been able to ourselves.
And
So
it's a good service so far.
I've really found it
Good for getting some quick answers on
Yes,
things.
I called them one.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
an
great,
issue.
it's great.
pretty nice.
So
Yeah.
it-
Good value. So
It's a good backup to have during this.
well, and I think it might be great supplemental going forward.
It might be, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree with you, yeah.
No.
Thank you.
And if you guys, you know, from a SHRM, from advertising, that can actually post this on the local job, if that's, you know, if you're not getting enough candidates. I mean, I can actually take it down that path if you want me to, just to kind of shake the books. As long as we have the current job description, I can post it on
I
there for
think
nothing.
we look, at what I've seen so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've gotten some really good candidates.
Okay, I'll leave it
based
alone.
on the
If you-
resumes,
if
but it
you
always
want-
looks
Yeah,
good on
let us
paper.
see what
But
comes
we'll
up in
see.
the
If you
Once
need that,
we-
just somebody give me a call. I
yeah,
can
I'd
actually-
say we'll know more in early next week.
Okay, that's
Once
fine.
we hear back from the initial batch, and then
Yeah.
if we get very low response, we definitely.
Just give me a
gonna
call,
need
Matthew, and I can
Right.
post it then, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
And thank Ron for pulling this all together.
Yeah, no,
Thank you for that.
The boat is set sail.
I know, you set us adrift.
Go get them.
Make it happen.
A sequel that would
Good
be
job,
happy.
yeah.
Captain Ron.
Captain.
I have 2 questions about this HR position, maybe it's clarification. First being compensation, is the expectation that this pay will be split equally or based on per capita for employees?
I think we had discussed that because of the situation with the 3 of us having much more need of the HR person because of the number of employees we have and the payroll and such. Okay, we had agreed to go back to what it was originally, and that would be a 30-30-30-10 split because we felt that was most fair since Mark would have, you know, minimal
But he's still gonna need
interaction.
health insurance enrollment
Right.
and, you know, the 990 and
Right.
the things that we do.
Once he gets 10 staff members, we'll reevaluate.
The other question is about the process. You guys are going to unanimously hire this person. What about firing the person if it doesn't work out? Have you thought about down the road, if there's a problem, if one of you has a problem, doesn't like this person, do you have to get the other three? Or do you bring it to this board? Have you thought about what the process would be on this evaluation of this
I
person?
think we would go through pretty much, I mean, if there was an issue with one director, with the HR person, I think that's where that
Committee would
special
come in.
committee would come in
Standard
to see if there was a resolution.
That's
Yeah.
if there's a conflict or something. What
But it could
about if we
also-
need to get rid, what if one
Yeah.
of you says, they're not doing a good job, I want them fired or replaced?
I would,
think we
I would
would
say,
follow
What do you think?
protocol.
Well-
I'm just thinking ahead.
yeah, I'd say if there's, I would qualify that as an issue if we don't all agree on something as significant as that. I would think that would be grounds for escalation. I will say, you know, we've had plenty of times where we've had difference of opinion and you know, we, as the four directors who were before you, we seem to be able to work through this pretty well. But I would say, if, to Lois's point, if that's something like that, which is very significant, cannot be resolved, that would be, that would probably be an escalation point.
But I would also think, trusting the four of us, that it wouldn't just be, oh, they're not doing their job, there'd be a paper trail as to
Yeah.
why. And if I went to my colleagues and said, hey, Mark, this, and this were all a violation, hey, this, I think we would agree together that would be a good idea to separate. So I can't foresee it going any other way.
And hopefully
If I
before
can.
that, yeah, like she said, it'd be a paper trail, but
Yes,
we would address that situation
yes.
Right.
before it got to that
First.
point. So we'd all be knowledgeable about what's happening.
Just pulling on what Dan was saying, you know, from I'm assuming there's going to be some type of probationary period established.
Always.
And we're going to be doing reviews at 30 days, 60, 90
Well,
days.
60 would be the initial, I think.
Well, whatever that
Yeah.
is. But you
Yeah,
have,
60.
okay, thank you for that, yeah, because that way
Yes.
at least there's some documentation on the
Yes.
front end of it if they're not
Oh, yeah.
doing their job.
And
I
then we'll
think
do a
it
mid-year.
puts the
Okay,
onus
yeah,
on us
okay.
also because of the uniqueness of this position, in the sense that we have to be sure that the four of us have maybe not equal time, but enough interactions with this person that
Yeah.
they're not, you know, as what happened for a long time. Okay, a lot of people thought that Deborah reported to Gene and he was kind enough to lend her out to the rest of us. So I think that's part of it. I mean, for us to be able to make fair evaluations of a person's, you know, job performance, it would involve being able to interact with that person. Like, you know, I mean, obviously Shelby spends the most time in Palm Harbor Library because we have her chained to the desk. But
Yeah.
besides that, but she gets out, she interacts with the other entities as well. So I think that's an important part, and that does put the onus on us to make sure that we have enough interactions with this person to be able to make a fair assessment.
Perfect, yeah, thank you.
Before we go on, question, Amber, are we recording on this?
I thought Bill was.
I've got a small recording thing going here, so hopefully this is going to give us what we need, so.
Okay.
I've always done it as a backup for the last umpteen
Okay.
work, so I mean, it just, yeah.
I visually
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that, and I just realized it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's a
It
projector.
wasn't plugged in.
Yeah.
We should be recording video, because that's what it says.
Yeah, we did not set up Zoom.
Okay. Just had this notice, only thing, should have noticed.
Yeah.
Okay, director's review process, we had a finalized form that was sent to us.
We agreed last time we would send out, we would use a, that form,
Right.
which was sent out, so now I'm going, I didn't have it, believe it or not.
Okay.
So we should all have it, so we
Right.
give it to our entities.
Correct.
And I gave them the timeline of November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st back to the workshop. I mean, we're actually doing ours, we're starting ours like next month because again, we've got to get consensus and it's going to take us 60 days for the advisory council to actually get a review process. So we're starting ours like now, you know, for next session. Next month we'll be starting our review process already because it's going to take us 60 days to get the final for November 1st. So we're just backing the dates off and just making sure we're consistent with that. And then the entity directors will be using the same form as what we agreed to last.
Okay, we agreed to the form.
Yeah.
That would be the final.
May I
Yeah.
ask a question? The one part that I didn't understand was the customer feedback star rating. who would complete that? Our managers, our
Well-
patrons?
You know, here's what the thought process was, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this one. You know, a year and a half or so ago, that's when we did the icon, and we were trying to get customer feedback directly to all of you for how well we're doing. And there's gonna be some type of star rating, whatever it may be. You know, again, if there's nothing this year for that, we're gonna have NAs across the board on that one because we can't rake that. The only question that we have going forward, if it's something that we plan on doing, let's keep it, and we're gonna have to really develop it over the next year.
Okay, so this isn't
You know,
something
'cause, I
I'm
mean, if
supposed to
it's-
give to my patrons at the front
Well,
desk
if you,
to fill
if you don't
out.
have anything, I just didn't know each
Yeah.
group what they were doing specifically, because I know we talked about it a year ago. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if you said you're already doing it. But I don't think the Palm Harbor Library is doing it though, you know, so that's, we just have to get consistent
Yes.
with that. And maybe that's a workshop
So it's a
discussion.
placeholder at this point.
It's
Placeholder,
just a
right.
placeholder.
I think it'd probably be best to, and I know it was approved last time, and I apologize for not being able to be here last meeting. But honestly, even if that star rating function was kind of up and running and had been up and running for a year or two, I don't know that it really needs to be, I don't think it should be in the evaluation. It has potential for getting meaningful feedback from the community, positive and negative. But, you know, those things can sometimes be like a little bit like the Wild West, you know, when it comes to how things flow in. It's not to say that it wouldn't be useful, but it's not something that has been in place for a few years. We know what kinds of things come in. We realize, oh yeah, this is a really good evaluator of the performance of an organization, you know, in our community specifically. And I know we're talking about it might just be NAs for now. But honestly, I think it probably should just not be part of the evaluation at all. It wouldn't have the same weight that like an in-depth community assessment that's done every few years might have. But even those kinds of things, I don't think necessarily would make sense in an evaluation. And I think customer feedback is important, and having a pulse check of how the community feels about Phcsa as a whole or our individual entities. Those are all really good. But I just don't see how this would help or hurt. I don't see how this would be a good evaluator for the directors. Even if it was all positives, I wouldn't necessarily want it in there because, again, like you think about like Amazon reviews or things like that, you know, they can be pretty tilted pretty quickly. This is not knocking the project. I think the project is worth exploring because you never know until you reach out what you might hear, and you might get a good piece of negative feedback you can do something about. That's a good thing. And holding the directors accountable for that kind of thing if it's in place, that's good too. I just don't, to me, it's not an evaluation metric. It's not even a thing yet. Like it's not I don't know if it's in any of our websites, and it's not on the Phcsa website.
It's not.
So to me, I think I would want to just take it off at least for a year or two until we actually see what is coming in. Are we getting a good balance of things? Are people leaving meaningful comments? Are they a good metric for an evaluation of any kind? We don't know. So that's how I feel about it. But I mean, it may be a moot point because it probably would be NAs for all of us at this point. You know, that's my 2 cents. We talked about it a little bit.
We did, and you know, we agreed with Matthew, I think, pretty much wholeheartedly that, you know, I don't know how, when you guys are going to an Airbnb and you look at the reviews, I mean, they could go either way, and someone could give you the crappiest 1-star review, and it's a beautiful place. So it just depends on the temperature of the person when they write that review. Did they have a bad day with you, and so they write this review, and now it's on your annual review? Or it could go the other way, where, you know, Lois knows 30,000 people. She's been in Eastlake for all these years, and she says, guys, I need a bunch of good reviews. Make sure you fit. No, I'm being serious. You could. And come on, I would, you would. No, but my point is, the value of that, and especially to put it in a performance review, doesn't seem equivalent at all. I mean, I agree with what
We
Matt
do
was
have the
saying.
Google reviews on the Eastlake Library website. I can tell you, most of them are complaints about, you know, I got charged for a damaged book, my passport application was rejected, it's your fault, you know, those types of things. It usually relates to complaints about policies or procedures, okay, not necessarily reflecting on the director.
Well, and to be fair, as a human, you usually don't stop your day to put something good. You just want to let us know when we're not hitting the mark. I mean, that's just, I mean, at a restaurant, if you have a great experience, you'll tip well, but you're not going to stop and do a Google review. Most of us, I will say myself included. So, you know,
I mean, sometimes good things come from that. Like you're reading an Amazon review and they go into the type of detail, even if it's not a long review, you realize, oh, this is something I wouldn't have known from the description. That's really helpful. In our situation, you know, you could get a negative feedback where it's like, yeah, maybe it's procedural, but sometimes maybe it's not. And you realize they call that a specific thing like, oh, crap, as a director, I had no idea this was even happening.
right.
Those are all very helpful, and I think it's okay that, you know, the board is like aware of those things. You know, that we're, you know, doing something about them or being questioned if we don't. But again, like, is it a thorough metric? To me, it's not quite right in this format. So yeah, that's again that's 4 cents
Period.
now. 2 cents, 4 cents. No,
Period.
It's not like 6 cents.
Period.
Yeah, period.
Based on the concerns from the directors, I move that we remove that section from the review for this year.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
I mean, I see this as a valuable learning experience right now. You guys are bringing something up, and more data is useful. You're shooting down the idea before it's even existed. I think seeing negative feedback and how you respond to it is useful in itself. Just because something's on the review, just because someone says something, doesn't mean that we're going to weight it and say, well, that's it, too bad, you're fired. Like, this data is useful to this board. You may not want the extra data. From a director's point of view, status quo is really good right now. The advisory boards are doing the reviews and we're rubber stamping. We have for years. Adding a little bit to it, getting more data points, only helps this board make a decision.
And my motion was just for this round. It doesn't mean that we can't go forward. We just need a mechanism to collect the data. We don't have that. Once we have that mechanism to collect the data, it's going back on.
If we decide to put it back on.
Right, but I mean, we have to have an area to collect the data from.
We have to, the way I see it, this being on there means that this board wants to have something. We don't know what it is yet, and we can't use it yet. But by putting the flag in the dirt on this, we're saying we want some sort of community feedback. Whether it could be employee feedback, it could be employee survey, it could be, I don't know what it is, but we want something else is what that says to me. So I'm in favor of keeping it.
I don't disagree that we need it. I mean, I think we do need it, and we can ask that we gather that information, but that's not what we're asking. You know, we're not asking to gather the information. We're just putting it on here and saying this is part of the director's review.
I think having it there is clear. We voted on it, we agreed upon it. And if we don't use it for this year, it's not hurting.
Well, it's going to sit blank, so.
It's not going to, but we don't have to go through the whole process of redoing the evaluation form again.
Well, maybe
Right,
at
will
the
be
director's workshop, you're gonna have the review workshop, maybe at that point, you know, it can be more clarified
Well, maybe we
for the
can,
next
going
round.
forward to next year.
Right.
It's obviously not going to take
Well,
effect
honestly,
this year.
I'm looking back at it and I'm reading it to myself. Yes, I want to know this information. I want to know this information about the entity itself. This customer feedback is more regarding the Palm Harbor Library and how it's run, yes, which affects the director, but most of the information that's going to come back, I agree with some of the comments that have been made, it's going to be about the negative, it's going to be about the facility, it's going to be about their experience, it's going to be about the library, the fines, because I've even gotten letters regarding the fact that, you know, about fines, and now we don't have them. You know, it's things like that, which tell us, which they use more than we even use, because it's how they then react to their and what they need to do to maintain their facility. We need to see it to see how our entities are doing, but I don't know if we need to see it to provide a substantial, you know, comment, or the advisory board needs it. You know, I just don't see it as a line item, and I didn't notice it. I really didn't notice it when we were looking at it last month to that. So leave it, don't leave it. I don't think it belongs there. I think it's something we need for information. I definitely need that, but I don't think it's something we put in the review, but.
So I have a question. I just Googled Parks and Rec reviews in Palm Harbor, and I can see 221 reviews. So we already have a mechanism. Google's already there doing it. If you guys really wanted to see reviews, why does it have to be in the review process? Here it is. I have a 4.6 rating in Palm Harbor Parks and Rec out of 5. I'm sure there's some negative in there somewhere. I didn't read all 221. I just Googled it while I was sitting here. So the mechanism's already in place. We're just not using it as a board when we do our reviews.
Google reviews.
If you really wanted to see how we were doing in the community, it's already there.
But those are all your friends.
Maybe.
No,
I'm just saying.
so here's my point.
Yeah.
I don't know
This
whose
is good
Bergen
feedback.
Post is, but
This is good stuff,
maybe
because,
we're friends.
so, there's a reason why we all use reviews. Because we're judging them.
Right.
We might go there. We might pick up something that we didn't think of. So I think the reviews overall are important. Matt has got a good point. It's a mess. It could be a bunch of disgruntled people for 2 weeks. All of a sudden that rating drops. We all know as in business how important those little ratings tweaks are and how to make sure you can get rid of bad reviews. But I still think it's good data. But that's a good point. It's out there already. So we should be using it because it is a tactile pulse on what's happening, down to what Phil just said, things that we aren't talking about. Are people happy with the finding process? Are people happy with the facilities and the services? So I do think it is important. Prior to Erica bringing that up, it's already out there. I thought to myself, well, of course I want to see that. That's another element. If somebody's going to come by and tell me, give me a little bit more information on the value of my home or my car for free, I want it. I might not use it, but I think it's important because it's
And
data.
we do respond to, on the Google reviews
Of course you do.
for the library.
Right.
As director, I respond to
But
them.
again, a lot of
So-
those reviews are real, and some people are compelled to
yeah.
go there and go,
Yeah.
I love
And there are a
the
lot
Palm Harbor
of
Library.
great reviews too, yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't dismiss
So
it.
it is there.
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
mess, it could be
I-
jaded and swayed, you're right, but I
Right.
think it's good data.
I just didn't know how it was being used in the
Right,
evaluation.
exactly.
That's
Well,
why I was
let me put it
questioning
this
that.
way, in a self-evaluation, if I saw a Google review that was substantive, and it was, let's say it was negative, and I did something about it, I might include that in my self-evaluation. Or if it was positive, and again, it was substantive, I might include that as like a measure that we are doing well. I would never include a rating like that in my self-evaluation.
Right.
The way this is structured, it's like how many reviews, what were the stars? I mean, it's pretty, the way it's structured is a very solid metric, but the source, what I would argue is the source is not very metrically sound. And we'd have to define like how many reviews make a good indication of this community weighing in. I'm not dissing the idea, even though it probably sounds like I am. I think it has its merits, but it's not, how can we add something that's part of our annual evaluation, especially to be measured this year, even if it was all in A's, or next year, when it's really not fully enforced yet? My argument is because it's not a proven data point, why add it? That's my argument.
Sandy, if I can, just for, it's interesting, if the Google rating, even though there's a score there, if I'm a director, I'm using that for my internal, how I'm managing it, pulling on what Ron's saying. That's good information to me. How does that equate back to your review? Are you looking at it? If I'm not looking at this information at all, if I don't care what the customer's telling me, that's a problem, guys. And that's all the Google rating to me is trying to tell you. Are you looking at the data? There's good and bads. And I'm telling you, you're right, there could be an emotional bad, but at the end of the day, are you managing that process and getting something out of it? Because we spent a year and a half ago, we were focused on that. How do you get customer feedback, guys? How do we listen to our customers? The people that are coming through giving us feedback. And that's how this whole process started. I don't have any investment in this process, I'm just saying it makes sense to me to do it. But again,
That doesn't, what you're saying, but that has nothing to do with item number 3. Item number 3 just says, what were the results? How many responses?
right.
Not, did the director use it? Were they, are they getting it from Google, or are they getting it from 15 other different search responses, or different, I mean, we don't, I mean, Google's there, okay,
Understand.
Google reviews, but we don't have a set, okay, how many responses did you get from the QR code that we established for comments? That's, we aren't qualifying where the customer feedback's coming from. So customer feedback, it came from 5 notes that were dropped off at the front desk, 7 phone calls, 250 Google reviews, and the guy down the street that's cleaning my guy's house told me that we need to do better. I mean, quantify and qualify where the customer feedback's coming from, then we've got something we can use. Yeah, it exists, but it doesn't exist because we set a format for it. It's just something that exists.
I think the addition of the goals section is really good because then it allows us for the coming year to set the goals, and then you can evaluate, did we meet those goals? I mean, that's an extra sort of check.
Stay with customer feedback. That's what we're talking about. That's
No,
the
I'm just
motion.
saying, we're talking about, Dan was talking about like having that additional check and balance for the review. And I think the goals section accomplishes that in the way the star rating doesn't.
So, in short, I'd say leave it there for now. We're putting this thing together. Doesn't mean we need to have to weight it that much. We might go, okay, that's a metric, move on, because it's not helpful to us today. If we leave it out there, we can look at it next year and go, hey, should we look at that a little bit more and figure it out, rather than spending the next 3 hours on
But there's no real rating in that category anyways. There's no,
But you're just asking for data.
it's just information.
Right.
So
So
we
you
ready to
can-
call the question?
Go through it and move on to the next one.
Are we ready? Call the vote?
Can I ask a question? That does not affect the evaluation score at all? The Google rating?
You know, that doesn't cascade into the overall rating. Again, whoever's doing the overall review, last, you know, in the past, that was an equal part. So that was part of the formula when you did the calculation. It's not there today. When you do the overall assessment of the director, it's really you're weighing what items that you feel are important to you. It could be, you know, strategic planning. It could be whatever. I mean, and that's part of that overall ranking. That's in the last page. That's your follow-up ranking. And that's your overall rating, so that's when you calculate your rating. If the Google stars is NA, it's not going to make any contribution to your overall rating, to answer your question.
Any more discussion?
I, a couple words here. Back in the day when I was being evaluated, I hated it, and I didn't think it was right and fair, and they judged fairly and all that. But when you get right down to it, what data points would be acceptable to the director? What does count if something doesn't count? You had somebody write a bad review and you didn't say that's a bad review, let's set it aside. We said, let's just crash the whole train. And we're another year and a half behind on this. None of this is going to make or break the professional life of a director who's doing their job. They can improve what they're doing, they can broaden their scope of work, make everybody in the community better and all of that. But what we're looking at is not the kind of thing that gets somebody fired, gets somebody slow, you know, their increase is slowed down or anything like this. What I thought we were looking for is a tool to let the directors, first of all, know how the Phcsa board thinks they're doing, and give them some feedback, ammunition to reach out and be bigger and better and stronger, which would make our entities bigger, better, and stronger, and therefore make Phcsa bigger and better and stronger. If we worry about every single data point that might negatively affect a director, we're never going to have an evaluation. And so I think you should leave it in. And if it later becomes an appropriate thing to use, then it ought to be, you know, well advertised what it's going to be before you start grading, taking points off the paper if that happens. But if you just get scared away from every possible thing that could come up in your evaluation, you're never going to get evaluated. In my opinion.
I'll say one more thing. I think as the board, we've heard the director's concerns about those data points coming in, and they're valid. So from a standpoint of how much does that sway or grade and influence the review process, at this point, we don't know, but you have to trust that the board will have that process in mind and your feedback in mind as well, because you're right. But if there's some good stuff out of there, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and when I brought it up, it was more for clarification. I didn't understand who the customer was and where it was coming from.
Got it.
Right? The only other question I have is, you talk about established goals and objectives, and if they've been met. We're talking about the previous year, okay?
Right.
What about, establishing goals and objectives for the succeeding year? Is that supposed to be in the evaluation also? I don't see it.
Yeah, so if you have last year's goals, you're gonna be weighing your performance against those goals.
Of course.
But then you also have to provide your goals for this year coming forward.
Right.
So
Okay.
2025.
We're moving on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
Moving
right,
on.
we are, we
We have a
are.
motion
I'm
on
sorry,
the
I was
floor.
just trying to clarify this.
Well, wait, okay, I do.
Thank you,
We have a
Cindy.
motion on the floor,
Go ahead.
any more discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. I should have just withdrawn it, but yes.
It's all right.
Okay,
I said let it
so
die.
we'll leave it
It
in.
died.
All right.
Okay.
Now,
It was a good opportunity to discuss
That's
that.
all right, it was
Yeah,
good.
well,
No, I
yeah.
did it mainly to clarify, because I wasn't sure how it was to be used there. My other question is that normally in an evaluation, at the end of the evaluation that we use with our managers and staff, there is a part for the goals and objectives for the next year. I don't see it, I mean, I put it in my annual report that I give to my advisory board and subsequently to Phcsa, but I don't see it on the evaluation, the new evaluation form.
Would we be evaluating that?
What, I'm sorry,
Okay.
we were talking about,
Sidebar.
sorry,
Sidebar.
we had a sidebar going on.
Okay. In the evaluation form that we've used in the past, there was always a section at the very end for, okay, great job this year, what are your, but these are your goals and objectives for next year. These are your, what goals do you have set for next year? Okay, and I don't see it on this.
No, it's number 3 in the back, last
Performance
page.
review summary.
List measurable recommendation and
Oh,
outcomes for
thank
the
you.
upcoming year.
Okay.
So-
Okay,
no,
it's there, it's there.
it's,
All right,
no, great question,
right there.
great question.
All right,
Thank you.
That's where you put your annual, going forward.
My eyes are not.
This-
No, you're good, you're good.
Well, it's exactly what I just said. This is more of an interactive form instead of the one you print and start filling out lines and
Right.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
That I just asked, how do I get to this? They said, we
Well-
gotta click on it. So
That was the
And that's-
sidebar part,
and
that was,
yeah.
we were trying to figure that part.
Okay.
And then in the red areas, you click, you got rankings from 5 all the way to 0, NA.
Okay.
Everything is automated on it. People's names are already in there, the dates are there. All you have to
okay.
do is just click and just click, 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 and you get right through the process. The commentary area, that's where you're allowed to type things in. You can add type in there, but literally all the rankings are automated though, so it's relatively straightforward.
All right.
And I'm assuming we can add an attachment to
Yes,
it. if we
yes,
so-
yes, absolutely.
So deem. So,
And then the
Will
other
we
things
see
on.
these, the directors will receive the digital format
Yes.
to fill out?
Yes, and then literally with the signature side of that thing, the only thing we're gonna have to debate at some point in time is you have an opportunity to input into this form. And then after we go to November 1st, if Phcsa also does that, then we have to figure out a way to, if you wanna input into that also. Because right now, this is for the advisory board, so you have your inputs into this form. This goes to November 1st into the workshop and then into our process. But then with the other reviews, if we're gonna be tagging on other reviews on top of that, then you're gonna have an opportunity to respond to
But
those
this,
reviews.
this form is the same form that we use for our
Correct, correct,
self-assessment,
correct,
correct? Okay. I'm sorry, Mr.
No, you're good, you're good.
okay, that's okay, that's important, so.
Okay.
It is important, it is.
Okay, moving on, to we have the board review questions, and everyone should have got the questions, I know we sent out. So we have a motion to approve. Discussion.
We have the tabled motion.
Yeah, we have tabled motions.
Just for clarification, I sent out, I think, 7 questions that I think would be each of the 8 Phcsa board members would complete. Maybe this year it'd be 7, but 5 of them were directly from this same questionnaire. So it's just kind of reaffirming, the advisory board thinks this, each of the Phcsa boards think this, is there a difference that's useful? And then I added 2, which were more about, hey, how did they present to the county commissioners, and how do they present at these meetings? And my idea on this was to put it online in the Google Drive and offer it for everyone to do it online, automatically rolled up into one combined survey result for the 8, directors, the 8 board members to see in one result. And we can take also this form that Bill's automated, we can put this online as well. The East Lake Library would be happy to do that. And then everyone can use that same survey tool, which already exists for Phcsa, we own it. But that's something that we can talk about later. But
And to me, the questions are absolutely appropriate. The only question I would have is how do we document that into a form, into a document, into something? Because again, we just can't create questions and say we're going to take questions and just respond to them. We've got to have a form, and we got to sign off on it, we got to have a date, and so that's when I put the stuff into the form and sent the form back to you. I'm not sure if that's the form you want to use, but we're going to have to figure out that process part of it too, because again, I don't have a problem with the questions, if that's what we're going to go forward with. But when we fill it out though, we just have to, there's got to be a protocol that we're following and from a consistency standpoint.
Did we
That's
get
all.
a motion and a second on this?
On
It
what?
was tabled, basically.
It was tabled,
Okay.
right, yeah.
It was tabled.
Never mind.
so what I'm talking about is putting those questions in an online survey format, which is
Well,
automated. And then each of
that's-
the 8
Right,
fill it out.
but that form, whatever we do online, has to be,
Signed and dated.
we've got to have
Those look
signed
pretty
and date,
expert.
there's got to be a form, and if there's a change to it, then we got to have who's the change, who makes the change, and that's some of the stuff that Ron was going to be working on. That, we got to have some formality to that. We just can't wing the data. And I change my mind a week from now, I want 2 more questions. No, we can't do that. We've got to agree to the questions, approve them, and then we got to follow it. I don't care if that's automated online or not. That's not the issue. How do we just control that once it's online though? That's all I'm trying to get to. If you want to take that on, wonderful. I just don't.
Well, in the lease, we can do it paper-based at this point, but we're agreeing on the questions. The only thing I want to add to that is the 7 questions. I think it was 7 questions. I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought maybe we can add 2 more. And they would be something along the lines of what activities, behaviors were above and beyond that you noticed? And what activities, behaviors do you think need improvement on this vector? So it's kind of a fill in the blank type
Yeah.
to give each of the board members. And the reason I thought this would be useful is because when we meet in November, it would be nice to have all that from each of us in one format, and then we could see, all right, a bunch of people said this was an above and beyond, so that when we have that meeting, it's not, let's all talk about what we think, it's more about, let's talk about what was already said. We can speed up the process by kind of collecting our opinions ahead of time. So adding to fill in the blanks, what do you like, what do you don't like?
We divide this motion into approve the questions tonight and then come back with a form next month? Since we don't have a form, but we have questions.
All right, so, well, the motion is to approve the 7.
The
Well,
motion that was tabled was to even
To do it.
do a review, period.
Right.
At the Phcsa level.
Yeah.
I think you should address that first.
Yes,
Okay,
That's an easy, right?
okay, so
that's correct.
let's have to, that's the motion, the original motion.
So I motion on table?
It's in the minutes.
Isn't it? Okay.
I don't know the proper procedure.
It was tabled.
It was tabled.
There's a motion to take it off the table.
I make a motion to take it off the table.
Second.
I'll
Second.
Okay, 1 second.
So any discussion on whether we do this? That's the first part. Okay, let's do it. Let's get it step by step.
So we vote to take it off the table.
So,
So we, right, so discussion.
wait a second. Everyone in favor of taking it off the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now,
I make a motion to use the 7 questions that I said.
we have to say whether we want.
Where?
No, so it's all.
Isn't a review
so it's-
first?
Right, we got to
Wait a minute, wait a
approve the
minute.
review, right?
So the question now
Oh, are we
is,
just
do you
supposed
want
to
to do the review?
Yes.
Do we
I
have
know.
discussion on the review? Or are we ready to vote?
I make a motion that we do a review Or the, no, we're
We
gonna,
already did that.
we have to,
No.
No, we didn't do
so
that.
now we have to vote on that
You
motion.
are correct. Your motion is correct. The motion is, do you,
Do a review.
will the board do the review, do a review?
Because the way we worded it last time is that required that each Phcsa board director conduct a review of the directors. And that's, so each one of us is gonna conduct that review.
That's the motion.
That's the motion. So we're going back to that motion.
Yes.
And so
Second.
first and
Took it off the
second of
table.
that.
Now it's on the table. Now we
So
discussion.
the discussion is, okay, so we understand that what we're saying is that each director will review all 4 directors individually as part of our process.
Review process.
And what is the vehicle being used for that? Dan's form,
We have-
7?
We don't
We haven't gotten that far yet, but it's,
decide whether you're gonna do it.
Got it.
Well, and part of that discussion, I agree, you know, if we are going to approve it, I mean, it was submitted that we would do it via a very similar form, and Dan was, you know, and he stated in the review, it's just taking pretty much the questions from the advisory board's questionnaire, right?
Yeah,
And
5 of them are.
and just kind of fine tuning them as to how we would look at doing it. And then my end, the negative we discussed last month is that, you know, individual directors, if I'm reviewing somebody, you know, if you have an issue with another director at a different entity, you know, how's it gonna come back? I mean, I'm over that, so if there's any other discussion.
we're all adults.
I was wondering why, when we had our workshop, I thought we had really discussed all this. Advisory board does a review, we do a self-review, goes to your committee in a special meeting, you could discuss the reviews there, and that would be kind of the way you put your input into the review. It seems to me we're making this more complicated than it needs to be.
Well, it's not any additional work on your part for the directors. It's just an additional data point that adds a little level of complexity for these 8 board members. And I would argue that we have 2 objectives as board members. Make sure you're not embezzling funds, and make sure we review you. So I think it's a good point. I'll give you a concrete example of why I'm adamant about this. East Lake Library, I think we have 9 members on our board. And if I think there's an issue and I bring it up in my review, it gets buried. I'm 1/9 of the review. So when you see these numbers, the only reason why Lois is not 5.0 is because I give it once. As in, just to be, you know, hyperbolic. So, but then it comes out at 4.7. So my voice is lost. Now we have an opportunity to have a voice here, which I can share with you and say, yeah, the advisory board says this. I trust it, but let's verify it by having us talk about it. Plus, we get to review the directors on how they behave and operate in these meetings, whereas the advisory board misses that data point altogether. So it does add a level of complexity, but it's not much, and it's only this Phcsa board director that are going to have, the members that have to deal with that.
Would
So
I
that's- So that's just gonna be compiled with.
It's a
with
third-
this. So
it's a
would
third-
you be but you wouldn't be reviewing us individually then?
We do. Each 8 reviews each 4 individually on the 7 or so questions.
So we all get 9 evaluations each year.
We get 3 evaluations of each director, 1 from the advisory board, 1 from the Phcsa board, and 1 from you.
And what do you
Three
receive
evaluations
with that?
total.
So those
You do
8,
this all.
those 8 get consolidated?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to snowball it, you take what Dan said, and you honestly should exclude Dan, exclude me, exclude the entity representative from doing a review of their director out of this group, because we already did our review at the advisory board level. I'm sorry, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but honestly, we would be tainted in the review we give because we've already given it.
And what you said too is that you said your vote gets buried on the advisory board, but it would be part of the evaluation here. You're evaluating twice, if that makes sense.
Well, and you also
But
hear.
there's different questions.
Different criteria.
I understand that.
I know, I'm being the devil's
Different
advocate.
No, right, right.
But actually, the board member is actually going to be at the meeting when we do the review, so your voice will be heard because you're going to be physically sitting there.
Correct.
So then we need to add all those questions to our for our own consideration,
No.
for our self-evaluation.
No.
No,
You just go on.
If I have things I want to communicate for y'all to consider based on that second round of evaluations, that you may not know about. So,
You're doing the self-evaluation, have almost
You
all the
could-
same.
There's, yeah, you can add that to your self-evaluation if you want.
So we can add
Proper-
it.
long self-evaluation.
We'll do that. Yeah, sure, there's nothing wrong with that. If you
Our
wanted
question
to,
is-
if you wanted to take it
Our
on.
question is, do we want to have the board do a review before we get into all the details?
Yes.
And we have a motion and a
Let's give it
Is
second.
there a
shot.
motion and a second?
Yes.
Do
If it
have
We have a
doesn't work
motion
out,
and a
discuss
second,
it.
right?
Yes, we already discussed
Madam
it.
Chair, call for a vote.
Call the vote.
We call them the vote, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so all in favor of the Phcsa board,
That's
doing
right.
the evaluation of each director, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One. Now-
Actually, two ayes on the opposed.
Who was the
Two
second?
noes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay,
Two
okay.
noes. I mean,
He was slow.
I was slow.
okay,
Two
that's-
eyes on the opposed.
now the discussion would be on these questions. Next
No,
step.
be the motion.
We already
We
did
need a
that.
motion on
Right.
the
Yes.
questions, yes. We need a motion on the questions, and we can discuss the questions, and then we can have a third one on.
I'm
Well,
confused.
I make a motion to use the 7 questions that I sent, adding an additional 2 fill in the blanks. What do you like, what do you don't like?
Second.
Was that the email that you sent on July 5th?
Probably.
Okay, I just
Yeah,
want to
it
make
should be
sure,
questions.
so that way
It'd be
I'm
this-
reviewing
this
the information
format
properly.
Correct.
With those
Yeah,
questions
I-
modified.
And I put those,
You
his
put 'em in
questions
there,
in
yeah.
a similar format to that.
See,
And I
I
sent that to you only.
I got that.
Because I just wasn't sure if you wanted to consider that or not
I didn't
for
get
this
that.
session.
Formats it.
Well,
Oh,
no, I
I
just sent it to
formatted
Dan.
it weird. Okay, all right, so I've got it.
John,
My format
this
is
computer's
different.
from 1983.
I
so
just
what do you-
bought that thing 2 years ago.
That's what, it's this.
Okay, okay.
It just should say down here, Phcsa Director Annual.
Yeah, that was the old one I did. with-
Ha.
So that is,
See?
there's an updated version
Yeah.
of that with your questions.
Right.
So I stripped that one out, so it's the
Oh,
same
okay.
format as
Same
that.
format as
But
that
can you
one.
But,
change
you
the,
know,
down here and say the same directors, can you call it the Phcsa?
Yes, yes,
Phcsa
yes,
review?
yes, I would do that. And I will send that to you, well, I'll send that out.
That's cool.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's discuss the questions.
Okay.
Questions themselves. Do we agree on these questions as a board? Is what we're discussing, and then we'll go into forms.
With the addition of fill in the blank for commentary.
Correct. That was the only
What do
thing
you
I
like,
was-
what do you
right,
don't like,
right.
what needs improvement, something along those lines.
We're working on these questions from July 5th.
You know, I'm okay with the questions, that the way you verbalized the questions. And I went through them, and I didn't have any issues with anything, to be honest with you, none at all. So, for myself personally, I don't have the questions in front of me. If somebody wants to read them, we can go through them. I don't know what you want to do, right?
Everybody's comfortable.
Did everybody read them?
Did everybody read the questions? Are you guys okay with the questions? Everybody?
I'm fine with it.
Does anybody want to call them?
Can you read the questions?
Can we read them? Director is fully prepared, professional, able to answer all questions, and acts collaboratively during Phcsa meetings, acts according to the rules of order, and represents the entity in a positive way. Question 1. Question 2. Director adequately establishes short and long-term goals, objectives for his or her facility, communicates their priority to Phcsa and their advisory board. Question 3. Director communicates issues and relevant community topics that arise within the operation of their facility that they feel should be of concern to Phcsa and their advisory board in a timely, concise, and thorough manner. Question 4. Director prepares the annual budget in a timely manner to cover all necessary expenses as well as reserve funds for unanticipated contingencies to present to Phcsa and their advisory board prior to submitting to the board. Question 5. Director effectively and professionally represents their entity to the Board of County Commissioners. It says please review video presentation. Number 6. Director communicates with director counterparts within Phcsa organization and those under the management of Phcsa to exchange ideas and opportunities to consolidate resources and efforts to achieve centricity and continuity in policy. 7. Director takes efforts to function as spokesperson for their facility, foster community relations with the press, attendance at civic gatherings, and outreach in the community. original 7 questions. Then he added, and we're filling the blanks, and the director go above and beyond their job description, activities and goals, and, or fell below expectation.
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. That was the question. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting the question as part of the review, of the review from the Phcsa board? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Now we have the questions.
So I can make the effort to put this in a format that's acceptable for us, maybe.
I'll send you my form again and just, it's a Word, just change it.
And if
whatever you want.
we want to do it online, we have the tools to do it, just so it's easier, but that's completely up to everybody else. I'm not against putting an online survey out for the 8 people to take.
But would we be able to identify who filled it out and when? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, we would need to have that?
You would have to have that.
Yes.
Who filled it out, yes.
Yes,
I
yes.
suppose if you just said, what's your name, and everyone fills it out, that's acceptable. And if there's 2 names, if there's 2 Johns, then we know something's foul. And
Well, I don't know, Andy, would we need to sign it, or?
It's almost got to be a DocuSign type of document.
DocuSign. I agree.
Yeah.
That would be easy.
It's a public record.
And then
Fill it out and sign it.
You can do,
Would help
Dan,
the
you could do something in Adobe, you do an Adobe signature, which is legal in that sense, versus a DocuSign. That's what I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
no, I wouldn't.
You can do that. Adobe you can sign in an
Of course,
Adobe, but you wouldn't be able to then compile the data
that's the whole-
automatically.
That's the point of doing it.
Right, no, I understand.
Explain the compile the data. So we do the reviews, we submit it, who puts it together?
Well, I was going to say have the software do that, just compile it for us in one format.
Yeah, but you've got comments. The comments.
And the comments would go in I like the idea of shuffling the comments so you don't know who's saying what, but if it's all going to be DocuSign and
He was gonna have just a simple survey,
I
where
just
we
don't
could go in
understand-
and we could type in our information, but it has to be actually signed.
All right, we can have that done, but we still have to have copies
Right,
of
you
the
still
signed.
just have to have the original
So
documents.
for the record,
Correct.
Right.
for the record.
Another question, is it weighted by which document you see? Like your review as opposed to individual
No, just-
review?
I wouldn't think so. This is just, they're all equally weighted and they're just input to you.
We'll find out in November,
Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes down
because
to
we've never
the-
done it before with multiple data points.
And it's up to each director to make a conclusion about the information they've received.
And that's important, what you just said, Sandy, because again, you're really just looking for feedback. What is the feedback? What are the people, the entities, or the Phcsa board telling you? I mean, it's just a day, it's just input.
Because our workshop is actually going to be to go over these reviews and make the decisions as a board during our and bring it to our meeting to be,
Final,
that workshop
to be
to work
voted on.
through that. But this is all information gathering for each of us to evaluate. Prior to this, all we have is the advisory board, period. Now we have more data points for us, each individually, to review prior to that workshop. And then we come together and have a discussion.
But, so there'll be just one review, right, coming consolidated from the advisory board per entity?
The individual ones are
Correct.
going to be in the public record, because that's
Right.
Well, you'll have,
And every form, whether individual or group or both, will be public record. What you all do with it is up to you.
I think are you asking in the end,
Right,
Yeah.
at the end of the November meeting,
So there's gonna be one.
one
Yeah.
final review of each of the 4
Yeah.
based on all data?
Right.
correct.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
that
By
was.
the, by the
Yeah.
Then
board.
that, and then that review and the 2 other reviews would be compiled.
No,
No.
yeah, I'm saying that will happen. And then after that, all 3 are combined.
Right.
Well,
Yes,
And then we talk,
and you're,
Yeah.
and it's adopted
and
by the board.
then we say, here's what our final
Yeah, I'm just
recommendation
trying to
is, based on all this data. here's what the final recommendation is, here's what their salary, you know, whether or not they get an increase and so on.
Because right now, we've got standing documents, we're gonna have a self-evaluation, we're gonna have an advisory council evaluation, and we're gonna have input from the Phcsa board. Is the intent to grab all those inputs and create a new consolidated form that's gonna be ranked for each entity director?
That was my understanding,
That-
what you just
Well,
said.
that's what it sounded like. I wasn't going down, I left everything separate, and then we would just discuss, do we agree with the advisory board's recommendation, blah, blah, blah. I mean,
That's
that's
why I
what
wanted
everything goes back.
clarification.
Right, there's not gonna be like a new document we
Okay,
create.
okay.
It's gonna be, we're gonna come up with a conclusion, a consensus, we're not agreeing. We're gonna vote on what we think.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's where we're gonna vote.
Yeah, you don't need another form, you're taking all that information and you're gonna make a motion and discuss, second and discussion, and then you're gonna make a determination.
It's
And
maybe-
since they are all complementary to each other, the self-evaluation is the same one the advisory board's doing.
Right.
And then the Phcsa board questionnaire
Almost the
is
same.
put together to be almost a mirrored image of, but just shorter
Yeah.
of what the, so it's all the same info, so we can
we just put
pretty
it all
much
together.
just put it all on top of the advisory board's review and,
And see if there's any discrepancies.
See, yeah.
That's the discussion
Okay.
points.
And that's our
Yeah.
discussion for our work.
yeah, I was afraid the way you were going, no, there's just gonna be one review, no, it's gonna be all three, but we'll vote on a,
We're voting on one, but it's using the data from all
Gathering of
three.
data that you ultimately decide what you're going to do, you're basing it on that information, but not completely. I mean, it's your
Yep.
discussion,
Right.
yep.
information for you to make your vote on.
And in a perfect world, I mean, just in January, February, ideally, we would take an assessment, we would do a gap assessment, we would do a review of the process. Are we happy with it? Are there still gaps existing, whatever it was, in the workshop or whatever it was? And said, these are the things that we're gonna have to do going forward. You know, it could be the 360, it could be whatever. I mean, that's the next steps, but that's a different, let's just get through this one and
Let's
see
get
what's
through this
working,
one.
what isn't, yeah.
We've made it, we're trying to make it improvement.
Improvement, right.
See how it goes. But overall, we'll have, does that make everybody understand? We good?
So I'll
Yep.
make
No,
sure
I'm
that
good
at
with
least
that.
that part is ready to go for everyone, at least by the next meeting.
I really think that all this energy that we put into this review certainly shows that we do really care as a Phcsa board about this process. But I think it's gonna lend to and strengthen our listening of the actual reviews that are coming from the advisory board more than ever
Isn't
before.
that the truth, yeah?
Because now that's another data point that means something in comparison to what we've already taken in or what we're about to take in.
Yep.
It validates that 0.25% of what's coming in based on the advisory board's feedback and makes that meaningful in comparison to what we're already doing. So this
I
is
really
great.
like the self-evaluations. I would like to hear come directly from the directors.
Yep.
They're really.
It's worthwhile, it's a real
Very-
process.
That's very helpful.
You know, I think we should review you as well.
Cool.
Well, that's the 360 part of it. You know, and
Before or
be careful what you ask for.
Mark, I got these checks I signed for you.
Yeah, about those
Reviewing
checks.
each other
uh-huh.
and, God and country.
Can I get a raise? Do I go?
Next
Do
item.
I get a raise from zero?
John, Mark said
Okay, so let's move on to this.
I didn't sign yours, I signed hers.
Bill, make sure that's in the minutes, right?
Okay, and then we have, this probably should be, I put it in the wrong, disability should have been under new business. Can we go back to that, because it should have been under new business?
Yeah.
It was in the wrong spot. Can you leave without pay policy? I believe that might be easier.
Yeah, I had presented it
Yeah,
at the last meeting, and as an addition to our policy for library employees, and it was at the request of the Phcsa board now to revise it to include all Phcsa employees, so it's going to the Phcsa handbook. So I made the necessary revisions, I sent them to Andy to approve, make sure that legally they were sound, and it was a good policy to have for all Phcsa employees. He did approve it, and it was included in your packet. What I had done was add the FMLA leave, which I think is an important part of leave without pay, that needs to be explained as how this differs from leave without pay, especially for part-time employees. So that's what we came up with, and with their approval, it then can be added to the next update of the handbook, but can take effect immediately.
Do we get a motion?
I make a motion.
Well, we gotta we have to untable it first, though, right?
It
We
wasn't-
never tabled
It
it.
was never tabled.
No, it wasn't
It
tabled.
was
She was gonna
revised.
she was gonna revise
I was
it.
Revised
asked
for
to
your
come back.
consideration.
Vacation.
This was,
Second.
this was leave? This was the leave one?
Yes, the
Yeah.
leave without pay.
We had a document, it was tabled.
It wasn't.
No,
I
that was
think
in the minutes.
that might have been a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It was
she gonna revise
basically, changes were gonna be made, so it could be brought to this meeting to discuss and vote.
Yeah, I believe Phil
Yeah,
had said
okay.
come back when,
Because
you know.
I don't remember there ever being a motion to approve it because we pointed out with the FMLA changes and making it a Phcsa
Right,
situation
that I
versus
had to
an
revise.
East Lake Library.
Right.
You seconded it.
Well, there was,
I don't remember you motioning it.
well, there was bereavement pay and there was,
It was a bereavement we did.
that
Yeah.
one we did. And then,
No, this one was
and the leave of
sent-
absence
Yeah, I don't remember
policy,
this taking any
we
vote.
went down and we actually held
In
off.
the meeting minutes, what do you have?
We tabled it.
Yeah.
We tabled
All right, I'd
it.
like to untable that.
I think we need to review the secretary.
Well, I mean,
We approve these
Second.
minutes.
we
I
approved.
second.
We did approve the minutes.
I make a
so-
motion to
It's
untable.
on table.
That's all I was getting at. I was making fun.
It's
Thank you.
untabled.
All right.
Seconded,
Questions on the pay
untable.
policy? Anyone?
So I should second.
No.
No, you should
Right.
second
It's
the
untabled,
untable.
then now we're
Did
good.
we get a second on the?
Yes.
untable?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
So it's untabled. Does anyone have any questions on the policy?
I read through it. It was very thorough. I didn't have any issues with it. I mean, did
It's
the
untabled,
directors have
so
any
you
issues
should
with
move
it?
to accept it.
What?
No,
Andy?
we're doing a vote on the accepting the untable.
Oh,
To
okay.
accept the untable.
I'll second that.
No, I already
No, we-
did. You
We
can't
already
do
have a
that.
motion in a second.
Just approve it.
Sandy, call a vote.
Anything on the-
Aye.
Approve it.
It's untabled.
Aye.
I move to accept the
We're untabled.
leave without pay policy for Phcsa employees.
And I'll second it again, I guess,
Okay, well,
according to the minutes.
okay.
So that's gonna be mandatory for all
Yes, it'll be
Yes.
for the whole. Any questions?
That was hard.
additions?
four. All directors are okay with this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Opposed?
you.
Good. Okay, so you have that one.
Good
done.
job.
Nice job, Lois.
Okay, now we're going into new business, and we'll go back and move the disability insurance rates was brought to my attention. So we can go for that first.
Yes, at the East Lake Advisory Board meeting, we noticed the line item for disability insurance jumped up tremendously. So I thought, let's bring it here because it's a Phcsa policy, like disability. If Lois, you want to explain a little bit more?
Evidently, there was an error in the calculations for the premiums for short-term disability, and we were informed a few months ago that it's like almost double what we were paying, which of course is quite a hit for our operational budget line, especially for employee benefits. And, you know, doing our due diligence, I don't see why we don't, consider going out to bid, I mean, disability insurance is not something that, is anybody's got a monopoly on. I was wondering if we could ask Yvonne from, our insurance representative from, I still say Bouchard, MMA, if maybe she could look into possible, I know we were trying to wait for an HR person, but I think maybe if that's something that she could take on now, because ours went up like 86%.
Just East Lake or
What about-
Ours
all
went- I
employees?
know, yeah, I
I
think they all
think it
went
was
up.
being under-tabulated by the previous person that was doing the bills. So that's
Oh,
we're
yeah.
playing catch-up. And I couldn't even really tell you what our policy cost, to be honest.
Yeah, there was an error with
A
the
large
formula.
By the insurance company?
No,
County?
No.
by
On,
us.
on our end,
Internal.
but.
An internal person.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
But we're not going to point
it's still.
We didn't have any claims?
Right, I mean, if that's what it normally is,
Normally
okay, but
disability,
I mean,
we
I
don't
think,
get hit.
when you take a hit like that, we should at least
Profit
go out
center
to
for
see
the
if that
insurance.
is truly.
So we were underpaying?
But we-
They found out.
brought it up.
We can just go shop it. I mean,
Yeah,
You can
Well-
just shop it. You
Yeah.
don't even need approval.
When do the benefits renew for the employees?
Well, our enrollments are for employee benefits are April 1st.
Right.
Right.
but I don't know if our short-term and long-term fall underneath that, guys. That's
I
my-
don't think it does. I think
I
it
think
should
I
they
change
think,
it.
it's month to month.
they go fiscal, don't they? They should go by fiscal year?
I don't believe, I have no reason to believe that we can't shop it now.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
you
think
can.
Yeah,
there's
you can
a-
shop it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will reach out to Yvonne. I agree with you, it is jumped.
Yeah, it was sticker shock. you
We
know,
wanted
because-
to give, we
yeah.
wanted to give it a little bit of time.
Right, we didn't want to,
Well,
as Shelby
and-
says, we didn't want to leave them, you know, right after.
Well,
The
I don't
spread-
want-
the-
We don't want them to go back and say,
Yeah, I
well, what was
want them to
15
do
years
an
ago?
audit and then say,
Yeah.
Right.
But I think you're saying, Andy, we actually don't have to bring this up, we could just do it, go do it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we will, I will reach out to Yvonne.
But just for clarification, the spreadsheet that was left to, bequeathed to Shelby had an error in it that maybe was a little bit older than it should have been, but we got it all worked out, they were very cooperative
Oh, good.
and all that, so the right thing is being done now in terms of the existing policy, but yeah.
And this isn't the workman's comp, this is straight
No,
disability.
this is
Okay.
short-term, long-term.
Okay, I got you, I got you.
Okay, so we don't
Thank
have
you.
to.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Workers' comp, they'll just kill you at audit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we were, that's under Martian, we already.
Yeah, that's already good.
Yeah.
The new business that just came up, I just got the email, so I added it, but you all didn't have it, it's approval of the 990.
Shelby?
Did everybody get it, their email?
Yeah, I got the email, yeah.
We got the draft, we approved that, making changes so that we are, we have to get it in by August.
Is that something that comes before the board every year, the 990? Because I don't ever remember you guys.
Never
I just know
has.
the chairperson signed it.
It,
Yeah, it went off.
it came from our accountant, it usually comes from the accountant to the administrator,
I've never
brought
seen
to
that
the
come
chairman to sign,
Right.
and it's not brought to the board.
So I think
Yeah.
Shelby, we probably can just, I mean, I don't think it hurts to have the extra eyes on it, but I don't think we have to get board approval on that.
Because you worked with the.
Well, I have some
Yeah, I've been working with CBIZ.
Yes,
doing
Yeah.
And we all
If she wanted
contributed
to.
updates to.
Yeah, we did the
Usually the accountant
updates
could
based on our
submit
annual
it.
statistical
And
reports.
what they told me, what
And-
Olivia Smith,
We
Olivia
authorize
Smith said,
us
we
to
have to bring it to the board
use
for
that
approval
file
so
that
that
we
they can
have.
get it submitted, is what she said.
Oh.
Well, and I think what
I
she
think-
thinks is because the chairperson signs it from the board.
I don't-
So like Phil had signed it, and before Phil, it was
And-
Kelly. And
And
before
does the chairman
Max.
have to sign it?
Yes. I have-
Okay, there's some things you don't have to sign that the accountant.
So I think that's what the auditor
Takes care
is.
of it.
is
You got a
board
signature
approval
line.
from the
Yeah, it's just
chair.
that she signed.
Okay.
I'm putting my name on it, guys.
There's-
That's right.
You can sign it, Madam Chairman. Have a nice night.
The liability on that is with our accountant.
Right.
Auditor.
And our auditor.
Yeah, the auditor's the one
Right,
that files it.
Well, there's a couple of issues that I saw in there that I think we should maybe talk about. I mean, this is the first time I'm looking at it. But the first being library fees and fines for 76K. But correct me if I'm wrong, we don't get library fees and fines anymore.
This is for fiscal, this is for year 22 to 23.
I might be able to shed some light on that. I did the same double taking, but it's fees and fines.
Yeah.
So like
Passport fees
go in there.
alone
Right.
are.
Community group rental.
Right,
Also
your
loss
camp
replacement
fees,
fees we made.
yes,
Yeah,
lost
that's
and
right.
damaged
Yep.
items, so
Okay,
it
that
does
makes
add.
So it's not outrageous.
It's not
Yeah.
up to us.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting.
The other thing I noticed was the Land Care Solutions, Inc., is that for Eastlink Rec?
Both of us.
Both.
Yeah.
Do we know anyone affiliated with that company?
No, I mean, we know the people that come out and mow, I mean, just by seeing them.
All right. I'm just,
Are you asking if like Uncle Bob is there?
Conflict of
right,
interest.
because then they list your family members on this, and I'm like, all right, so this is where that, so
They list my family members
Yeah, I
on the
can-
10 on the 990 form.
under land care?
I can,
No, but on affiliated people that are getting paid. So I guess it's just saying, we gotta disclose it, but I wanna make sure, do we have a process to approve that? Like, are we covered on that? Is Erica okay, or the Phcsa board okay?
For,
Because they list Stephen and Samuel.
The question that came to me from Olivia was, if the people on payroll are related to Erica, please provide their benefit information and their retirement information for, I'm assuming it's a disclosure issue, so I provided that,
So
but
it's
it
just
doesn't
for
have
disclosure,
anything
we don't
to
have
do
to
with-
like
Yeah, it
say
doesn't have
this is.
anything to do with anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy, you can address the legality of that because you're familiar
As
with,
long as you don't supervise
Right.
them,
or write their review.
write their review, if raises are given across the board, they're not doing individual by you, it's fine.
So then you signing it, you gotta agree that that's happening. So, okay. And that's why I was like, well, Land Care Solutions, why are we only listing them?
Because they're the only one that paid over $100,000.
Right, and then I read the
I
final.
had to read back
okay.
there and
Like,
find
all
it.
right, now I get it.
Mhm.
Then why are we listing people that are making, you know? And then
Look, it proved I read it. I'm a damn.
He even saw his name on here.
so it's a Schedule L that they're under. So do we monitor that? Are we required to monitor this as a board? Or is this something that,
You've never discussed it or brought it up in all these years. I always thought it was the accountant and the auditor. The auditor would look at it on your behalf on an annual basis as a separate set of eyes.
Right.
And listen, it's been brought up before, even at advisory board level, and Erica's, I mean, you've always made sure that anybody that's related, even when it comes to volunteers, sometimes that it's all, it's all done correctly. So I agree.
yeah, we're signing it, or I guess Sandy's signing it, so.
So information that's open and it's, yeah, there's nothing to it. Yeah, yeah.
No, and that's why the audit, that's why
For the audits.
an auditor deal with that specific.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other, I guess, so that's the other question I have. If we have a 1099 employee, what is our process for making sure that Lois isn't hiring her nephew, who owns a lawn care business, to do the East Lake Library? Advisory board, we don't ask that question. Like, we don't question any of the vendors.
That's
Like
it.
electric guy, coming in. It's gonna be fun.
Let me say it this way, so if Lois was doing that and she did it incorrectly, then she has committed a ethics violation subject to scrutiny and fines and removal by the,
Subject to disciplinary measures.
And isn't
So
there-
this board's not responsible for
this
any of
board
that.
would not be responsible because you do not deal with the day-to-day hiring and firing of employees. You only address the board directors, so it's their responsibility. They're the ones that will be subject to
Andy,
disciplinary action.
is that covered, Andy, in the conflict of interest? Because we sign off on the conflict of interest.
Well, they're covered specifically under the 112,
Okay.
which has all the ethics requirements under this Florida statute. No.
Okay.
We don't need to vote.
No. Got it.
Okay, so so that's done. I'll sign it. If I go to jail, you're all in trouble.
Sure, sign it.
Don't visit.
Okay, good. Lois will bring the
We'll
egg.
bake a cake with a file.
Still waiting on the eggplant.
Eggplant.
She'll make eggplant parmesan with a file.
How about I bring it to the director review workshop?
There you go.
Oh, come on, I'll bring the beer.
Makes that part of the process.
A cooking
Now for
exposition.
our last item, everybody, which is the job description for the administrative coordinator. Have you all reviewed it?
Yep.
Okay, so can we get a motion to,
Motion to approve.
okay, open to discussion. Questions or comments? Anybody? Nobody had questions?
So the administrative coordinator would report to the 4 directors as the HR person will.
That's what it says.
Okay, I just making sure, because that's, yes.
I had a bit of a question there, I just want to let everyone else go first. On the backside, it says, that they also work with, it says meets regularly with and occasionally with the Phcsa chairperson to facilitate communications and keep on top of organization-wide concerns, demands, and achievements. And then it said, attends board meetings when requested by the entity directors. I feel that that would be a board issue. And having this person, the board would want them at our meetings. I feel it's important for whoever, when we discuss it, we have somebody to talk to, if we need a direction. Because this position, I think, Also, I know, Phil, you worked pretty closely with Deborah when you were chairman. Probably more than I have, but Shelby, sadly, probably should be better at it. But I just feel like this position also works very closely with the chairman. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, about the.
The position works with you on the business of Phcsa.
Phcsa.
And that's the business end of the entities that has to go through Phcsa, that requires Phcsa signatures, which is yours, and your oversight. So, yeah, you'll meet with that position more than
Right,
anybody else.
that's the first bullet.
And that's
right?
what that description pretty much describes. If we require that position to be at these meetings, every meeting, it's saying that would be here at the request of the directors.
So we would tell the
But-
directors and just.
Yeah, have her be here.
Right,
Or-
that's
but
right.
it would only be, it's regarding the business of the, if we have questions regarding business, that's who's gonna have the answers.
Right.
If it's not the director.
I mean, it's not for us,
Correct,
I don't
correct.
think any one of us would say it's a big deal to change that
Yeah,
job
we can
description.
change
Yeah.
that.
If that's a
It can be-
contentious, you know.
Yeah.
It's not tension, I just feel like.
No, or whatever,
I
a deal
you know,
breaker,
I
maybe
think
that's
it's,
better.
it's something we need to discuss, because I think that person needs to also communicate. The HR person really doesn't come to us for most things, but this person,
Right.
Yeah.
it has much more interaction with the board.
We can-
I agree. This person has more, this person has more knowledge of the business of Phcsa that
Stop
we are
scaring
more
Shelby
involved
away.
in.
Jill, stop
So-
scaring her away, we convinced
so
How
her.
about we just put attend Phcsa board
So
meetings?
the
Yeah,
second,
period.
I brought this up in the HR
Yeah.
discussion, which was, we want to be able to direct them to do our
Uh-huh.
stuff too. So we could just do that same language, you could put, and
Well, actually, it's
Or-
our stuff and then the HR stuff if necessary,
back.
as a backup. But the person is primarily
Business.
for the board,
right, so to
to,
reflect that.
for the chair, really. I shouldn't say the
Yeah.
board. It's more for the chair in making sure that the business is being taken
What
care
I'm
of.
trying to say is, we don't want it to the point where the chair has to go through the director.
No.
We don't want to have that.
Right.
And what, I know you guys, I'm talking down the line, things change, different chairmen, different directors. Do we want this, where that person, if I have a problem with Shelby, do I have to go to all four of you and say, hey, I have a problem with Shelby?
Listen,
Yeah.
like I said,
I
we
think
can
Yeah,
change it, this
yeah.
board wants it
Change
that way,
anything.
and if it,
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years down the road, the
You're
next
just-
board wants
you-
it a different way, we'll change it again.
You're just talking about the person attending board meetings, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
attending board meetings, or just even doing things directed by the board. If
So,
there's a
I mean,
problem.
I think, I would argue that the majority of what they do is for and in coordination with, in collaboration with the entity directors. That's the majority of your time is spent with us, Shelby, right?
As an HR person.
No, not just HR.
No, even
There's
the
a number of
business.
different things, And I don't think that there has to be any kind of restriction of communication. That's fine if you need something done, but that something done could be that person or it could be something we need to do. And I don't have any problem with the person attending board meetings. That's fine. But to me, it makes sense. They report up to us. In other words, Shelby and the HR person are a team. They're a team covering two ends of the business, and like you said, when one needs help with something, they cover each other a little bit. There's a little bit of overlap there. But it doesn't mean that they have to be, if you need something done and you want to, it makes sense to communicate it to that person, that's fine. If you're not sure, you communicate it to us. If you have a problem with that person, you communicate it to us. It's the same team dynamic we talked about before. And you're all volunteers, and your time's precious. If it makes sense for the person to attend board meetings, for that communication to stay intact, and then additional conversations as needed, that's fine. We can make that work.
I mean, because clearly the reporting responsibility is to the directors. I mean, if you just change that second bullet instead of requested by the entity directors, requested by the
Just cross it out.
chairperson.
Yeah.
Attend Phcsa
Just
board
cross it
meetings.
out.
we can
Just
do
cross that out. I mean, that's.
Say
Yeah.
attends
by-
Phcsa meetings, period.
Period.
Done.
Yeah, so, Chris.
Yeah, right.
Can we approve it as amended, Andy, or do we have to?
No, you can approve it as amended.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Just
Can we
cross
direct
out the
them?
wind.
Just cross it
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's all.
So yeah, the thing is, if we want the Phcsa
Brilliant, man.
administrative coordinator to do something as a board, we should have that capability, and they should know that they're responsible to do that.
So
Right now, they would say, well.
What
I
do
don't
you
think
have
we
in
can.
mind, Dan? Like, what would you want to direct that person to do?
Don't know.
I don't know, I would assume something along the lines of, hey,
The evaluations.
the evaluations need to be combined by you and given to us by this time.
That's part of their normal workflow.
Right.
And that's.
But is it?
But they need
Yeah,
to,
you just establish it that way. Yeah, if they're the one, but evaluations would go through HR, though, wouldn't go for this.
I guess the question I have, would we be given the task direction directly to Shelby as a director? Or does it come through this board first, then we make that request?
Well, that's the question.
that's what we're talking
That's what we're
It
talking
should,
about.
it
right?
should.
It's a hierarchy to how we.
Right, right.
It should, we can always
should
tell
come
the
through the
directors
board.
to tell her to do it.
And go through the chair.
You would think, you would think.
That's
why
the
I
way
bring
it
up.
should be
I
done.
mean, there's usually a hierarchy. She reports
So-
to them,
Right,
and then,
right.
you
Yes.
know, she can say no to us. Is that how it works? You know.
Agreed? I mean,
Listen, I can almost guarantee you the vast majority of what both of those people will be doing will be in coordination with us. It's just gonna be the way it happens. You know, what long list of things do you as a board have that is gonna need to be done by an administrative coordinator or an HR person?
I know when we were at our past meetings, all we did was say, Deborah's gonna do it.
Yes.
Right, but
That may not
that's
have
why
been the
we
right
changed
person to do
this.
it, is all we're
Right, but what
saying.
I'm saying is, but the board was directing that. That was
If
coming
the board
from
needs something for us to make sure it gets
Tell you
done,
do it.
then communicate with the director. You can communicate it with us anytime. You can communicate it with us during board meetings, and that administrative coordinator can be here. So if it's a discussion, we realize, oh, Shelby's the person to do it, we can just take care of it, nip it in the bud right there. And if the chairperson needs to communicate with that person as well in between, but you don't want 8 directors communicating with one person in between meetings anyway,
There'd
right?
be 12 with the 4 of us and any of
Yeah.
you.
No, I mean,
Yes, that gets
you're
complicated.
right, it could be just said to the directors, we want this done, make sure that it's being done, because, and whoever you assign it to. Because at the end of the day, the 4 of you work for this board.
Right.
And therefore, it's just like getting city manager, fire chief, you don't talk to their employees, but you talk to them, so
Right.
if they're not doing the job, then you replace the director.
But in the job description too, it does say other duties to be assigned, which could be,
Which
hey,
is,
Dan needs you to do
it's
blah, blah,
never
blah.
been an issue.
No.
Frankly, if the person said no,
There'd be the
yeah,
issue.
we'd
Yeah.
have an issue and we probably need to get.
If we got to a place where there's something time sensitive came up, and it needed to be taken care of, and you can't reach any of the 4 of us, because we've all decided to go to Atlantic City and try our luck there, then we wouldn't have any issue with you communicating with anybody in our organizations, because something time sensitive has come up, and it could be documented, it could be emailed, or whatever, but you know, we understand, we have an organization to run as a whole, and, you know, theoretically, I would think that the majority of our communication would happen with us and the team, the 2 coordinators. Occasionally the chairperson, but then the person would be at meetings, anything that comes up to fill in those gaps, things that, we don't want things to fall.
I don't think we need to beat this up anymore.
Yeah.
You're going down a rabbit hole. You, me, we don't have the authority to direct anybody, okay? We can't, individually, we can't do that. As a board, we can.
Right.
So ain't nothing gonna come from individuals to Shelby to do. We don't have that ability. That's not our job.
And that's sort of what we're on today.
So it would only come once a month
Right.
unless we call a special
Right.
meeting. So don't worry about it. We'll direct the directors to direct Shelby if anything so happens, and that's fine.
I guess the whole point of it was documenting that in the job description, so they know they will have to do tasks that fix the fixable, because they're not, that might be news, I mean, no one's gonna know that.
Well, that can be added. I mean, I think
Well,
it
yes,
should
and
say
I
that.
mean-
If it doesn't, it should say that.
I mean, it is a pretty thorough job description. We did include a lot of the Phcsa business within the job description, and that's why we called it a Phcsa administrative coordinator, because we were trying to separate out the Phcsa business from the HR business.
Why don't we call it, instead of Phcsa administrative coordinator, to be more indicative of what you're saying, Dan, Phcsa board administrative coordinator. Still same reporting?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just-
That's better because.
It's administrative coordinator, you know, that's what they're, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, that's
But
okay to
there's,
disagree.
it's not strictly for the board, you know, it's for the business of Phcsa overall, so.
Right, which includes, if the chair needs something
Yeah,
for the meeting, then
Yes.
they get those things. If the
Yeah.
board member
That's-
says that they need
That's
something.
the only member that,
You know, that needs to
Exactly.
occur
Sandy's
for
the
the
only person
meeting
that
and
can-
stuff like
But
that.
I
yeah.
might
Make
not
a
be,
direction.
I'm only gonna be chair for a few more months, whoever's sitting in this position.
No, you're in it.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's you. You're that position, so you're the one. So that's,
As
So
a
it does
member.
say other duties to be assigned, Madam Chair, so that does cover whatever you guys might come up with. And you have to trust the
Right.
four current directors, and hopefully the future directors, to be there for you, or we each have an assistant, except for poor Mark.
If it becomes a problem, we have to bring it back.
We'll address it
and
at that
address
point,
it.
exactly.
We've always been able to work this thing through. This has not been a problem.
No.
Just fix the
The
board.
only real thing.
Back in the day, it used to
would
be
make
called
sense
fix
to me,
administrator.
but I think it's important for us to be.
That's what Mary Mason was.
Very good.
Fix administrator.
What's the range on it? Everything you
Again, I
want?
think we're going that route.
I do.
That's too, Bill.
That's too big.
Bill.
Amended to strike out the.
So,
Read that whole line.
well, and the commercial insurance.
Who made the
To
motion?
business and commercial insurance for the veterans. So that's business, insurance, and commercial insurance.
Did you guys make the motion?
I looked at separate.
Yes, I did.
Can you amend it to?
Bill made
I
it,
amend-
John seconded it.
Just attend the meeting.
I amend the motion to what, Dan?
Remove,
When we attend board
Just
meetings,
attend
when requested.
To state, attend board meetings,
Period.
period.
Yes.
And the title too, right?
So the title changes to fix a board, administrative coordinator.
Should it be Phcsa and
I
Phcsa
thought we were
board?
leaving it
No,
fixed administrator.
Phcsa board?
Now just leave it as,
Fix administrative leaving.
Phcsa board or just
no,
Phcsa?
fix administrative.
it just stays.
It's fine.
Cover both.
Okay, then just the one change.
Second.
No, the guy's second has to
Second.
be second.
Yeah, I had the original
Knock
second,
yourself
sorry.
out. All good.
I'll, step back, because,
Sorry, Ron, I apologize.
Point five.
Who seconded that?
I did.
You thirded, right?
Anyone else? Anything you guys?
You guys ready?
Huh?
Yep.
I think everything else reads.
We're ready.
The only other, just the pay itself, was that already established?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we
I
did.
just didn't know
It
where the pay
overlaps
came-
with the current rate.
I just didn't know where the pay came from,
Yeah,
that's
that
all.
overlapped with the current rate.
No other question.
You good?
We're good.
Okay. All in favor of the amended job description, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I know my shoulder hurts today.
Okay.
I hear applause on the back. Nancy.
Okay.
Nancy's like, they finally made a decision.
Listed on there, our workshop, I listed it, so we all remember the date. Lois, I believe you did offer,
I offered the community room, I put it aside, if everybody wants to, he's like,
you all agree with
I'm not
that?
promising.
All
All right.
Well, yeah, that technically is when you would be done, unless they reappoint you.
Where's it gonna be?
There is no, there in our
It's
bylaws.
like.
Okay, so that's what I thought, okay.
East Lake Library.
In the fix about it, there's nothing
6
about
o'clock.
an entity person
He's there,
serving
he's
more
ready.
than two. Yeah, don't check me.
Where are we at?
Motion to adjourn.
I won't be here next month.
Okay.
I won't be here next month.
What meeting and what day?
Okay, we have our Phcsa Directors Review Workshop. It's Thursday, November 14th. We voted on it last month. It's at 6 PM. We didn't have a location, but we're
Yeah.
having East Lake
Right.
Library's location.
Correct.
That's all there is with that.
A point of clarification, Chairperson, is this at the point where you're going to be reviewing the reviews? And
Yes.
That's prior to our meeting. with
is
the-
Yes.
all right, so then our presence is either,
It's up to you. It's a
okay,
public
I'm sorry,
meeting.
so the November 14th meeting, that's when you review the,
the
Review
evaluation.
oh, I
the
see,
review.
I see.
Yes.
I
I
thought
mean, it's a
you-
public meeting, we still.
It's a public
No, no, I
meeting,
thought-
so
You can
it's-
attend.
But it's a workshop, nothing will be voted on.
Nothing will be voted on,
Right.
just discussion, but it's so that hopefully the meeting will go smoother. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Your mouth to God's ear, Sandy.
I know,
I think we're, I'm there because I'm the host.
Okay.
Madam Chairperson, are you just-
Next meeting, August 21st, 2024,
I will
6
be.
PM, Palm Harbor Library, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I won't be at the August.
Correct.
Just so you know.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Less than 2 hours.
Who had the over-under?